Imagine that extraterrestrial life has been discovered and how that would leave many people extremely excited. We would know that we are not alone in the universe and that there are two completely independent evolutionary trees, and that is fascinating. Imagine how much we could learn about ourselves and how the universe could be abundant and teeming with life in the most varied types that we can barely imagine. All of this seems incredible. But if we think about it, this could be the worst news we could receive. This is proof that humanity's days are numbered. And how has this never happened? If we stop to think, we can see that the universe is absurdly gigantic. To give you an idea, in the universe there are around 10,000 stars for each grain of sand on planet Earth. We can reduce this number to represent only the stars that are similar to our Sun, that have a planet similar to Earth, which in turn has life and were able to develop an intelligent civilization. The quantity is greatly reduced, but still, for each handful of sand on Earth, there are hundreds of intelligent civilizations throughout the universe. But of course, distance would perhaps be one of the most crucial factors for us to be able to exchange messages with them. So perhaps the most correct and conservative thing would be to look only at our galaxy. And still, following the same reasoning, we would have about 100,000 intelligent civilizations with us here in the Milky Way. Imagine that some of them could easily be more advanced than us. Imagine if some of them arose earlier than us, like 100,000, a million, a billion years before, more than enough time to develop the necessary technology to communicate and conquer the entire Milky Way. So we should have made some kind of contact with at least one of these thousands of alien civilizations a long time ago. But if so far we have had nothing, not a single response, this does not make much sense. This is the Fermi paradox. I know if the paradox seems to have no solution, but there are two groups of ideas that try to explain it. One set of ideas says that advanced alien civilizations exist, but for some reason, we have not yet received any kind of contact. Maybe because we don't have the right equipment, maybe they are afraid, or maybe they are indifferent. On the other hand, there is a set of ideas that says that advanced alien civilizations simply do not exist because there is the Great Filter. A filter in this context is nothing more than a barrier that prevents the evolution of a galactic civilization. It filters all forms of life throughout the universe and leaves only a few to pass through. For example, the first barrier that a galactic civilization needs to overcome may be the very emergence of life. Perhaps it is extremely rare for the right conditions for its beginning to exist. And then the second filter of evolution could be the appearance of more complex microstructures capable of converting more energy, something like our eukaryotic cells. And right after that, we have the third filter, which may be the emergence of a form of life larger in size and complexity, like multicellular organisms. In sequence, as the fourth filter, we have the origin of intelligent life capable of being aware of its own existence or sharing knowledge and creating tools to modify the environment. Finally, as the fifth filter, we have the construction of a galactic civilization capable of communicating and visiting the entire galaxy. These are the five main filters, and possibly one of them is the Great Filter, the biggest barrier that no form of life in the universe has ever managed to cross to this day. And that means that for us, as humanity, we are left with two possible scenarios: either the Great Filter is behind us, or it is ahead of us. And to know where it is, we need to know what makes the Great Filter great. For it to be great and almost impossible to overcome, the result after passing through the filter needs to be rare to find and slow to happen. For example, the filter that separates unicellular organisms from multicellular ones did not prevent this leap from one to the other from happening dozens of times independently here on Earth. We can even induce this in the laboratory. So maybe it's not so rare, maybe it's not such a big filter. However, on the other hand, the filter that separates non-life from life, the story seems to be different. In the beginning, when the Earth was still in the process of formation, it was intensely hit by asteroids, which made the temperature on the surface extremely high and made the existence of liquid water and carbon-based molecules impossible. But as soon as this turbulent period showed signs that it was ending, the tree of life began to bloom. It didn't take long to happen, it was only 100 or 200 million years for this to happen, which seems like a long time, but on an astronomical scale, it's even fast. And this makes the filter of the emergence of life also not the best candidate for the Great Filter, and even faster was the emergence of intelligent life capable of greatly altering the environment because our species took only 1 million years to emerge from the Homo erectus. Now look closely at the leap from prokaryotic beings to eukaryotic ones. This transition took about 1.8 billion years to happen, and as far as we know, it only occurred once. That is, it is quite rare and slow, which makes this filter a strong candidate for the Great Filter, right? But what do all these filters have in common? Well, they are all behind our current moment. We have already passed all of this. And if indeed one of them is the Great Filter, this is great news. It means that we have already overcome our biggest obstacle to becoming a galactic civilization, and a great future awaits us. Now imagine if this is not the case and if in fact the Great Filter is ahead of us. Perhaps there is something that we do not know well what it is that makes civilizations like ours self-destruct before they even have a chance to conquer the Milky Way. Perhaps an artificial intelligence will destroy us, a war with weapons of mass destruction, a highly contagious and lethal disease, a global environmental catastrophe, or even social networks. People, for the love of you, saw this news here, what an absurdity. My brother, let's go to get vaccinated. This would be the worst news we could have, that we are walking towards an almost certain extinction. Now, what does this story of the future of humanity have to do with finding extraterrestrial life? Well, if we find life that originated outside the Earth here in our solar system, then there will already be two independent occurrences around the same star. And then probably the other hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way should be at every corner teeming with forms of life. And with a larger base of places with life, there will also be many more intelligent alien civilizations just like ours. So within this hypothesis, the only thing that explains the fact that we have not made any contact with other civilizations so far is that they self-destructed for some inevitable reason. So if one day we manage to communicate with other intelligent civilizations at our same level of technological development, it means then that it is likely that there are others like her, like us, and at some point before they manage to conquer the Milky Way, they destroy themselves. This would be evidence that the Great Filter is still ahead of us. All forms of life in the universe that one day observed the stars and questioned whether they were alone, all without exception, passed or will one day pass through extinction because of their own acts. And we humans are not a little bit of special snowflakes, we will have the same tragic destiny, right? This is a possibility. But what if we rummage and turn every corner of the solar system and find nothing but sand, rocks, and completely sterile liquids? Well, that will be good news. It means that we are unique, that probably the Great Filter has already been overcome, it is in our past, and we do not have so much to fear. It means that every drama and human happiness that has ever existed in history is nothing more than a mere blink of an eye. We are going to give birth to the birth of a form of life that has not even begun. Genetic engineering, nanotechnology, mind upload, and who knows what types of technology we will develop in the distant future that will radically transform us as humanity. And for us in the present, these unrecognizable beings of the future will seem almost like gods, with powers that we never dreamed of, true masters of the entire galaxy. What do you think? What's your opinion? Leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and to hit like button.